Have you ever wondered why, after 70, life feels so different from what we expected? Why does it seem like the rules we've followed for years no longer apply? Well, today, we're diving deep into 12 things that simply don't make sense for women after 70. Trust me, the last one will challenge the way you see yourself and could transform the way you approach aging entirely. As we get older, the world around us changes, and so do we. But what if I told you that it's not just about growing older, it's about redefining what that means for you? In this video, you'll discover how to embrace your beauty in a whole new light, why clutter and stress no longer have a place in your life, and how to focus on what truly matters, your happiness. We'll talk about breaking free from outdated expectations, letting go of the need for perfection, and reclaiming your time and energy. Plus, I'll share how saying no to others can be the best way to say yes to yourself. By the end of this video, you'll feel empowered to take charge of your life and your relationships in a way that prioritizes your well-being. Stay with me until the end, and you'll learn how to make the most of this chapter of your life. One that's full of growth, joy, and adventure, not just survival. Let's dive into these 12 game-changing truths. If you are not subscribed, I recommend subscribing and activating the notification bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support means a lot to me, and if you enjoyed this video, you can help me continue spreading the valuable lessons by liking and sharing it. If you like the topic of this video, please comment 1. If you don't, please comment 0 to let me know how I can improve and make better videos for you. Now, let's begin. Do you truly understand what radiance looks like now? It's not just in the smoothness of your skin or how you look in a photo, and it certainly isn't something that can be measured by the number of wrinkles erased with expensive treatments. No, true radiance comes from within, and it shines through in the simplest yet most meaningful moments of your life. It's in the way your eyes sparkle when you see your grandchildren, their innocent smiles full of energy and wonder. It's in the pure joy that erupts from your heart and spills out in laughter when you hear a joke, one you've heard 100 times before, but it still makes you smile as if it's the first time. Those laugh lines? They're not imperfections, they're the roadmap of your life, each one a testament to years of happiness, laughter, love, and the stories that have shaped you. And yet, I've come to believe that we don't need to spend hundreds, if not thousands, of dollars on treatments that promise to make us appear younger, trying to look less old, when there are so many other ways to invest that money that would give us a far more lasting and real sense of joy. We could spend it on hobbies that make our hearts sing, or on experiences that bring us genuine happiness. Whether it's traveling, learning something new, or just enjoying the quiet moments of life that feel so precious. In my own life, I've found that investing in things that make me feel truly alive, like spending time with loved ones or engaging in activities that nurture my spirit, brings me so much more fulfillment than any cosmetic procedure ever could. At this point in life, beauty isn't something to chase after. It's not about desperately trying to fit into some fleeting definition of beauty set by society, but about embracing and celebrating what you've become, inside and out. It's something you carry with you, radiating from within because of the wisdom, experiences, and deep self-awareness you've accumulated over the years. You've earned the right to show up in the world as you are, with no apologies, no attempts to hide or change. You've already built a beautiful, rich life full of unique experiences, relationships, and memories that have shaped who you are today. And that is more than enough. So, let go of the chase and instead, embrace the person you've become, unapologetically and fully. And then, there's something else I've learned over the years. A realization that's so simple, yet incredibly freeing. The more stuff you have, the more stress you carry. Think about it. All of those things cluttering your closets, drawers, and shelves are not just physical objects taking up space, they're mental baggage too. How many of us hold on to things because we think we might need them someday? Or because they're gifts we felt guilty throwing away? I used to do that. For years, I kept clothes I told myself I'd fit into again. I clung to old gifts, some of them wrapped in fancy paper and tucked away, because I felt bad about giving them away. And don't even get me started on the piles of magazines I kept for someday. I thought maybe they'd be useful, or that they might somehow bring me a sense of nostalgia. But what did all of that stuff do? It weighed me down. It distracted me. It made me feel overwhelmed and kept me from fully experiencing the peace and freedom I deserved. I realized I didn't need to hold on to all of that stuff anymore. I didn't need to feel burdened by things I never used or things I no longer cared about. And that's when I decided to shift my perspective. Instead of seeing decluttering as something painful, getting rid of old possessions that might bring feelings of guilt or sadness, I began to see it as making space. Space in my home, sure, but also space in my heart and mind. By clearing away the unnecessary, I created room for the things that truly mattered. Space for reflection, space for joy, and space for peace. So, I started small. I focused on one room at a time. I went through my things slowly, asking myself, does this bring me joy? Does it serve me in any way anymore? If the answer was no, I let it go. And with every item I cleared away, I felt lighter, freer. You wouldn't believe how much lighter I felt when I no longer had to face the clutter that was weighing me down, both physically and mentally. It was as if I had made room for new possibilities, for a new chapter in my life where I could focus on things that truly brought me happiness, things that were worth my energy and time. The process wasn't just about removing things. It was about making room for something better, something simpler, something real. Now, let's talk about something else that has truly shifted for me as I've grown older. How often we find ourselves pulled into the conflicts of others. It's something that has become all too familiar over the years, jumping into disagreements, even when they have nothing to do with us. Maybe it's because we want to protect someone we love, or perhaps we feel an obligation to mediate in family matters. In our younger years, we might have felt that the role of peacemaker was a badge of honor, something to be proud of. But as the years go by, we start to realize that not every disagreement is ours to solve. We don't need to keep fighting battles that aren't ours. Picture this for a moment. Your grown children are in the midst of a silly argument about who should host the next holiday gathering. Your instinct might be to jump in, to mediate, to calm things down. But what's the real cost of that? Often, stepping in just drains our emotional energy and leaves us feeling stuck in the middle of something that doesn't even matter in the long run. I've learned this lesson the hard way. Trying to resolve conflicts or mediate on behalf of others sometimes just makes everything worse. In the end, you're left with both sides resenting you for getting involved in the first place. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 1 below to let me know that you are still here with me. And this extends beyond family disagreements. Think about the feuds you've had with friends or neighbors. How much time, energy, and emotional labor have you spent on holding on to grudges, fighting battles that, in the grand scheme of things, just don't matter? I've learned that not every problem needs to be solved by you, and sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply step back. Let others figure things out for themselves. I've earned the right to choose my battles, and I've learned that stepping away from unnecessary conflicts is sometimes the wisest, most peaceful decision I can make. As I reflect more on these years, I've also come to realize something about women like us. We are natural caretakers. We feel a deep sense of responsibility to show up for others, to make them feel loved, cherished, and seen. It's in our DNA. We want to nurture, take care of, and keep our relationships intact. But after 70, there's a point when we have to ask ourselves, at what cost? For so many years, I kept a packed schedule. My calendar was full to the brim with events, birthdays, community commitments, and even tea parties for friends. I thought being busy was a sign that I was vibrant, active, and engaged with life. But what I didn't realize was that it was draining me. It was wearing me thin. It was taking away the precious moments of peace that I needed to stay grounded and connected to myself. There were weeks when I could hardly catch my breath between commitments. And yet, I kept saying yes, because I didn't want to disappoint anyone. What I failed to recognize was that by saying yes to everyone else, I was saying no to myself. I started to resent some of the very things I had once been excited to do. I remember one Sunday morning, one that should have been my time to relax, sip my tea, and reflect. Instead, I was at a fundraising event I didn't even enjoy, all because I had committed to it without thinking about how it would make me feel. That's when it hit me. My time is no longer infinite. I can't just give it away without thought. I have the right to choose how I spend my time, and to prioritize what truly matters to me. Now, I honor my time. I honor my energy. I honor my need for solitude and peace. And I've learned that it's okay to say no. It's okay to let go of commitments that drain me. Life is too short to spend it running around trying to please everyone else. I've earned the right to live on my terms, to focus on what brings me peace and fulfillment. In doing so, I've found a deeper joy in my life, a joy that comes from embracing who I am, slowing down, and cherishing the moments that truly matter. These days, I've started asking myself two very simple, yet deeply significant questions before committing to anything. Will this truly make me happy? And do I have the energy for it? It's astonishing how such straightforward questions can bring so much clarity. I've come to realize that if the answer is no to either, it's perfectly okay to say no, without feeling guilty. In the past, I might have overextended myself or pushed through obligations just because I thought I should. But now, I've learned that my peace of mind and personal happiness come first. I do this kindly, of course, because I've never believed in being rude or dismissive, but the key is that I do it firmly. If something doesn't align with my joy or my ability to fully engage, I politely bow out. What I've found is that most people understand. They do. And it's not just that they're being nice, they've been there too. They've learned the hard way, just like I have, that overcommitting and people-pleasing leave you drained, disconnected from yourself, and devoid of the energy you need for the things that truly matter. Now, when I look at my calendar, it's filled with moments that bring me genuine happiness and peace. Moments that center on things I value deeply, such as time with close family, quiet walks, a good book, or even just moments of stillness and reflection. No longer do I feel that gnawing sense of obligation hanging over my head. Instead, I feel a deep sense of fulfillment, because I've freed myself from the constant pressure to do everything for everyone. It's a relief, honestly, to be able to savor life slowly, to feel more present, and to enjoy the experiences that truly matter. Let's talk about something that has haunted so many of us throughout our lives. Perfection. Ah, perfection. The elusive ideal we've been chasing for decades. From childhood, we were taught that a perfect home, a perfectly cooked meal, and a perfect appearance were the ultimate goals to strive for. And for so long, I bought into that. I thought that if I could just get it all right, everything else would fall into place. But now, as I reflect more on those years, I can't help but wonder, who is perfection serving? I remember a particular Thanksgiving stands out in my mind, perhaps because it marked a turning point in my understanding of this concept. I was hosting, and I set myself up for failure by demanding that everything be flawless. I spent days preparing, cleaning every nook and cranny of the house, ironing the tablecloths just so, and planning an elaborate new recipe I found in a magazine. I obsessed over every little detail, convinced that my guests would notice all of it and that they would be impressed by my effort. But when the big day arrived, I was utterly exhausted. I couldn't enjoy a single moment. I had spent so much time making sure everything looked perfect that I barely had the energy to connect with anyone. I don't even think I savored the meal, much less the joy that filled the room. And here's the kicker. No one noticed the fine china, the pristine centerpiece, or the perfectly arranged dessert plates. What did everyone notice? My absence. I had spent so much of my energy on creating the illusion of perfection that I missed out on what truly mattered. The people around the table, the laughter that filled the air, the love in the room. My children, grandchildren, and friends weren't impressed by my flawless setup. They wanted me to be present. They wanted my company, not my perfection. That Thanksgiving marked a pivotal moment for me. It was a hard lesson to learn, but it was also one of the most important ones I've ever had. Perfection is a lie. It's a burden, and one that I no longer carry. I've come to realize that imperfection is not something to be ashamed of, it's something to be embraced. Now, if my cake sinks a little in the middle, it's still a delicious cake. If there's a little dust on the coffee table when guests arrive, we can still have a wonderful time, because it's the connections we share that matter, not the state of my home. What people truly value in life isn't a spotless house or a perfectly planned dinner. It's your presence, your warmth, and your authenticity. So, here's the truth I've come to understand. We've spent so many years chasing perfection, and now, we've earned the right to let it go. We've earned the right to be unapologetically real. I no longer care if things are a little messy or if my appearance isn't quite as flawless as I once thought it should be. What matters most now is being myself, embracing my quirks, my flaws, and my imperfections. That's what people will remember. Not the perfect party or pristine home, but the moments when I showed up as my true self, fully present, fully engaged, and fully authentic. Another thing I've learned is that taking care of my health is not just a priority, it's a necessity. Oh, how I wish someone had told me that earlier in life. Maintaining your health as you age feels like a full-time job at times. The doctor appointments, the dietary changes, the exercise routines, there's no end to it. It can feel overwhelming, like one more thing on an already busy plate. But if there's one thing I've come to know with absolute certainty, it's this: nothing is more inconvenient than losing your health. Losing your health doesn't just mean pain or physical discomfort, it means losing the ability to live life to its fullest. I had a wake-up call a few years ago. It started with small things, an ache in my shoulder and a little stiffness in my knees, but I dismissed them. I thought, it's just aging. It's normal. I'll be fine. But the problem was that those little signs built up over time, and before I knew it, I found myself unable to do things I once took for granted. I struggled to climb stairs, had difficulty keeping up with my daily routine, and felt completely drained by simple activities. When I went to the doctor, I learned that those small problems could have been avoided with early intervention. I realized that the little things matter. Small aches, small changes in how I felt, they were my body's way of telling me something was wrong, and I wasn't paying attention. Health isn't just about avoiding major illnesses. It's about paying attention to the daily habits that shape our lives. For a long time, I relied on pre-packaged meals because I was busy or tired. They were quick, easy, and convenient. But over time, I noticed I felt sluggish, and my energy levels were dipping. It wasn't just the food, it was the lack of real nourishment. I realized that all those quick fixes were costing me more than time. They were costing me my vitality. So I decided to make a change. Now, I take my health seriously. I prep fresh, nutritious meals on Sundays, so I'm not tempted by unhealthy convenience food. I take the time to stretch every morning, even if it's just for 10 minutes. I go to my doctor regularly, even for the small things, because taking care of my health now pays off later. These small but consistent changes have given me more energy, mobility, and vitality than I ever thought possible at this age. There is something incredibly empowering about taking control of your health, about feeling physically capable, and knowing that you've invested in your well-being. It's the greatest gift I can give myself. Finally, I wish someone had told me years ago that not all relationships are meant to last forever. We've all been conditioned to believe that we need to hold on to friendships, family connections, and even partnerships, simply because we've invested time and energy into them. We feel like we should maintain these relationships, even when they're toxic, one-sided, or simply not healthy for us. But here's the hard truth I've learned. After 70, maintaining toxic relationships doesn't make sense. It's not about being cold or cruel. It's about understanding that our time is precious. If a relationship doesn't nourish me, If it drains my energy, then it's okay to let it go. Life is too short to be stuck in unhealthy patterns. As I look back, I realize how much energy I spent maintaining relationships that didn't serve me, just because I felt it was expected. But now, I choose the relationships that enrich my life, that bring me joy, warmth, and understanding. After all, isn't that what matters in the end? I've learned that it's okay to step away from people or situations that no longer bring me peace because I deserve that peace. I've earned it, and I'm no longer afraid to embrace it. This is the time in my life when I'm choosing to surround myself with those who uplift me, who share my values, and who love me for who I am. And if someone can't offer that, then it's time to release them. My happiness, my peace, and my well-being are worth it. I once had a dear friend, Linda, with whom I had shared over 3 decades of my life. In the early years, our friendship was a true source of joy, filled with shared memories, inside jokes, and the kind of deep understanding that only time can bring. But as the years wore on, I began to notice a shift in Linda's energy. It was subtle at first, like the first whisper of a storm on the horizon. Slowly but surely, her once vibrant spirit began to darken, and I found myself dreading our meetings. Linda had a unique knack for finding negativity in even the most beautiful moments. Every time we sat down for a chat, it felt like an emotional burden that I could never escape. She would spend hours talking about the troubles in her life, the faults she found in others, and the things that irritated her. She never seemed to see the silver lining, and the complaints never stopped. It was as though the weight of the world had settled upon her shoulders, and I was expected to bear that weight right alongside her. As we talked, I would feel the exhaustion creep in, my energy slowly draining away, piece by piece. It was as though I was walking away from each conversation carrying a heavy, invisible load that lingered in my soul. But despite this, I clung to the friendship, feeling guilty at the thought of ending it. Guilt is a powerful emotion, one that can make you question everything, even your well-being. How could I possibly turn my back on someone I'd known for so long? Someone I had shared so many memories with? How could I simply walk away from her when she needed a friend? I wrestled with those feelings for months, and it felt like an internal battle with no clear resolution. But over time, something began to shift in my heart. I realized that I had allowed guilt to keep me tethered to a relationship that no longer served me. More importantly, I realized that time, the one resource we can never get back, was slipping away. Time was no longer something I could take for granted, especially now that I was older. Every moment mattered more than ever, and I could no longer afford to spend it in a place of negativity, constantly giving my energy to someone who left me feeling less than whole. My heart ached at the thought of making such a decision, but deep down, I knew that it was the only way forward. I needed to protect my peace, my joy, and my well-being. I had to take control of the way I spent my days. Deciding to step away from Linda was one of the hardest choices I've ever made. There was no immediate sense of triumph or satisfaction. Instead, there was an overwhelming sense of sadness and loss. A friendship that had spanned over 3 decades could not simply be erased without leaving a mark. But in the days that followed, I felt an unexpected wave of relief wash over me, as though I had freed myself from an emotional prison I hadn't even known I was trapped in. It was as though I had lifted a weight I didn't realize I was carrying. And though I still felt sorrow over the decision, I knew deep in my soul that it was the right one. Life was too short to invest in relationships that drained me, relationships that took more than they gave. I began to pour my energy into the people who brought me joy, the ones who encouraged me, uplifted me, and left me feeling lighter after our conversations. They were the ones who added value to my life, not subtract from it. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 2 below to let me know that you are still here with me. As I reflect on this journey, I can't help but think about the myth that surrounds aging. Society often tells us that after a certain age, especially after 70, our lives are set. The world seems to suggest that we should simply settle into the routine of old age, stop trying new things, and accept that our best years are behind us. But let me tell you, that notion could not be further from the truth. I believe that this stage of life is not only a time for reflection, but a golden opportunity to rediscover ourselves, explore passions that may have been put on the back burner, and try new things we never had the chance to before. It's a time to start fresh, to step outside the box we've been placed in, and to experience the world in ways we never imagined. The world doesn't stop moving just because we age. It only becomes richer, more textured, and more beautiful if we open ourselves up to it. For much of my life, I was caught up in the whirlwind of raising children and building a career. My days were consumed with schedules, responsibilities, and commitments. There was little to no time for personal passions or hobbies. But when I turned 70, I found myself with something I hadn't had in decades: time. Time to spend on me, time to explore new interests, and time to follow my curiosity. And so, I took a leap of faith and signed up for a painting class, not because I thought I would be any good at it, but because it felt like something I wanted to do. For the first time in years, I felt the excitement of being a beginner, of not knowing what I was doing but being okay with that. It was liberating. I wasn't trying to impress anyone. I wasn't trying to be perfect. I was simply enjoying the process, enjoying the moment. That feeling of freedom, of embracing something for the sake of joy rather than achievement, was priceless. Since then, I've ventured into gardening, started journaling every single day, and even joined a local choir. Each new hobby brought a sense of fulfillment I hadn't known in years. It didn't matter that I wasn't a skilled gardener or the best singer in the choir. What mattered was the sense of purpose it gave me, the excitement of trying something new, and the sheer joy of learning. It was a reminder that we are never too old to grow, never too old to start something new, and never too old to rediscover a part of ourselves we had forgotten. Age is just a number. It's the willingness to embrace the unknown, to take risks, to experience life with an open heart that makes all the difference. And no one, no matter how old they are, should ever let anyone tell them that they're too old to learn or to try something new. I used to be terrified of technology. The thought of using a tablet, navigating smartphones, or figuring out how to set up a smart TV left me paralyzed with fear. I convinced myself it was too complicated for someone like me, that I didn't need it, that it wasn't for me. But as the world around me became increasingly digital, I realized that avoiding technology was no longer an option. I didn't want to be left behind, disconnected from the world I had once known. It was my granddaughter who helped me break through that barrier. With infinite patience and love, she taught me how to use a tablet, and the moment I understood how to connect with my family through video calls, my perspective completely shifted. Suddenly, the world was at my fingertips. I could learn new recipes, find gardening tips, take online classes, and connect with people from all over the world. I joined online communities for people my age, where we shared stories, advice, and experiences. Technology didn't seem so intimidating anymore. It wasn't a threat, it was an opportunity. An opportunity to stay connected, to keep learning, to stay engaged with the world around me. I even started learning some basic Spanish, something I had always wanted to do. The idea that I could continue to grow and learn in this way was exhilarating. Technology isn't something to fear. It's a tool to enhance our lives, to bring us closer to the people and passions that matter most. And if you're hesitant about learning, that's okay. Start small. Take baby steps. Ask a family member for help. You don't have to master everything at once, but just taking that first step can open up a world of possibilities. There comes a time in life when you realize that, no matter what you do, someone will have an opinion about it. And do you know what? That's perfectly okay. But after 70, caring about those opinions, especially the ones that are rooted in judgment or criticism, just doesn't make sense anymore. When I was younger, I used to fret about everything. I would worry about what to wear to a social gathering, whether my gifts were good enough for my friends, or whether the decisions I made about my own life were being judged by others. Society often taught us, as women, to seek approval from everyone. Our families, our neighbors, even strangers. But with time, I've come to understand that the only approval I need is my own. I am worthy of living my life the way I want to, without seeking validation from anyone else. Life becomes so much lighter when you let go of the need for constant approval. It's not selfish to live for yourself. It's necessary. So, if you're ever in doubt, remember this. Life is too precious to waste on anything or anyone that doesn't bring you joy. You don't have to apologize for walking away from relationships that drain you. You don't have to justify spending time on new experiences, new adventures, and new learning. You are not too old for any of it. You deserve a life filled with purpose, joy, and fulfillment, no matter how many years you've lived. Embrace the freedom that comes with aging. It's never too late to start anew. Let me share something with you that has been so freeing for me, and I think it could be for you too. When it all comes down to it, none of the small, everyday worries matter in the grand scheme of life. Looking back, I remember a time, not too long ago, when I agonized over wearing a bright, bold floral dress to a formal event. I convinced myself that it was too much and that I might stand out in all the wrong ways. I worried about people judging me for being too much, for breaking the unspoken rules of what was considered appropriate. My mind raced, imagining whispers behind my back, wondering if I'd made a fool of myself. But then my daughter, wise beyond her years, looked me straight in the eye and said, "Mom, who cares? If it makes you happy, wear it. You deserve to feel beautiful and confident. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." And you know what? I listened. I wore that dress. And to my surprise, not only did I receive so many compliments that day, but there was something more important, something unexpected, that happened. I felt a sense of empowerment deep within me. I felt comfortable in my skin for the first time in a long while. For that brief moment, I wasn't worried about what others thought of me. I wasn't concerned with fitting into some predefined mold. I was just me, bold, vibrant, and confident. It was a feeling I hadn't experienced in ages, and it was life-changing. That moment taught me something I will never forget. True freedom lies in living your life for yourself. So here's my advice, from someone who has lived and learned: live your life unapologetically. Wear the clothes that make you feel fabulous, even if you're the only one who understands your choices. Dance like no one's watching, even if people are staring at you. Speak your truth, even if it's unpopular or uncomfortable. And when you reach your 70s, please know this: you've earned the right to put your happiness first. You've spent decades caring for others, putting their needs, opinions, and happiness above your own. But by the time you hit this milestone, it's time to focus on yourself. You don't need permission to embrace joy in your way. Don't waste another second of your precious time second-guessing yourself. Live for you. Let's talk about something that tends to weigh heavily on many of us: money. Oh, money. It's a tricky subject at any age. But once you're in the later stages of life, neglecting to plan for your financial future is one of the worst mistakes you can make. I've seen it firsthand, and I can't tell you how many of my friends have run into trouble because they avoided confronting their finances, thinking that everything would work out somehow. Unfortunately, life doesn't always play out that way. The unexpected happens. Whether it's medical bills, housing needs, or even the desire to help out a family member in need, not having a clear financial plan can bring about unnecessary stress and worry. I've seen so many people get caught off guard, only to find themselves scrambling to make ends meet. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 3 below to let me know that you are still here with me. But on the flip side, I've also seen people who live in fear of spending, afraid to treat themselves, afraid to enjoy the money they've worked so hard for. They pinch pennies, sacrifice comfort, and live frugally out of an irrational fear that they'll never have enough. And I get it. I've been there myself. There was a time when I worried about every little expense, convinced I had to save every dollar and never treat myself. I let that fear control me for so long. But then, one day, I realized something important. I had spent so much of my life accumulating wealth, whether small or large, that I deserved to enjoy it. So, I took a step that turned out to be life-changing. I sat down with a financial advisor, and we went over everything. We discussed my income, my expenses, my savings, and what I wanted to leave behind for my family. It wasn't as intimidating as I thought it would be. It was empowering. And the peace of mind I gained from knowing exactly where I stood was worth every moment of the conversation. I now know that I can enjoy the rest of my life, knowing that my financial future is secure. I don't lie awake at night anymore, worrying about whether I'll have enough to cover medical expenses or sudden emergencies. Instead, I live in the present, knowing that I've done the work to prepare. Having a clear understanding of your financial health is one of the most empowering things you can do. It's not just about planning for the future. It's about enjoying life right now. It's about occasionally splurging on something that makes you feel good, without guilt. And it's never too late to start. It's never too late to take control, to ensure that the rest of your life is free from financial worry. Now, let's talk about something even more profound, the truth about aging. I think for many, aging is something we fear. For years, I was afraid of it myself. But now, looking back, I realize that aging isn't something to dread. It's something to embrace. Every wrinkle, every gray hair, every year that passes is a testament to a life lived with passion, to a body that has carried you through countless experiences, to a soul that has loved and been loved in return. And yet, so many women, myself included at one point, let the fear of aging hold them back. I remember hiding my age, trying creams to smooth away the lines, covering up the marks of time, and avoiding conversations about how many candles were on my birthday cake. But one day, I looked in the mirror, and for the first time, I asked myself, what am I so afraid of? It was in that quiet moment that I realized that each wrinkle and every gray strand of hair tell a story. Each one is a marker of the joy I've experienced, the tears I've shed, the lessons I've learned. I've come to understand that aging isn't something to be ashamed of. It's a gift, a privilege, and a celebration of everything I've lived through. Every line on my face is proof that I have lived fully and deeply. So now, instead of worrying about losing my youth, I celebrate what aging brings. I celebrate the wisdom that comes with age, the perspective it provides, and the ability to appreciate the little things I may have overlooked in my younger years. I don't worry anymore about being the oldest person in the room. Instead, I focus on being the most present. I want to be the one who soaks up every moment, cherishing each conversation, every laugh, every sunrise and sunset. Aging isn't about losing who you were. It's about becoming the person you were always meant to be. The person who has learned to savor life with grace and acceptance. So let's stop letting the fear of aging dictate how we live. Let's embrace this chapter with open arms, with curiosity, and with a bold sense of adventure. The best parts of our lives are not behind us, they're ahead of us. And it's time we step into them, fully and unapologetically. As we come to the end of today's video, I want to leave you with one important thought. Aging, life, and the journey we're all on is something to be embraced, not feared. Whether it's wearing that bold dress, taking control of your finances, or celebrating the wisdom that comes with age, there's so much to cherish and so much power in living life on your terms. So, what have you learned today? I'd love to hear from you. What's one thing that stood out to you, one lesson that resonated with you, and something you plan to bring into your own life? Share it in the comments below, and let's inspire each other to live with confidence and joy, no matter our age. If you like this video, please leave your comment below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more empowering content. Let's keep growing, learning, and embracing every moment together. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.